The first thing he felt wasn't pain. It was silence, heavy and absolute, like the sky had stopped listening. He crawled from a tear in the fuselage, sand grinding into his palms, smoke trailing behind him like a ghost, unsure if it should stay. The jet's tail was ripped wide open, its metal bones exposed like an unfinished sculpture of failure. He stood slowly, wind catching the hem of his coat like it wanted to drag him back inside. There was no fire, no alarms, just dust, and the whisper of static from somewhere deep in the wreck. Inside, the cabin looked like an abandoned dream. Seats scorched, luxury half-melted, names stripped from labels. Designer bags lay open, charred at the edges, filled with nothing he remembered packing. Overhead, wiring dangled like veins cut too fast. A faint clicking echoed behind the galley wall. He stood in the aisle, breathing slow, watching condensation form where there was no coal. The plane wasn't just wrecked, it was hollowed, as if it had carried something that finally escaped. The engine had landed far from the main wreck, carved into the earth like it had tried to bury itself. Scorch marks spiraled across its surface in patterns too symmetrical to be natural, like symbols left mid-ritual. He leaned in, staring into the blackened turbines. The metal hummed, faint but deliberate. He whispered a line, an old lyric, half prayer, half warning, and somewhere inside, something blinked. Once, then nothing. The cockpit was cracked wide to the heavens, as if the sky itself had pried it open to look inside. Sand dusted every surface, screens shattered, switches flipped by force or desperation. He sat in the pilot's chair, eyes closed, fingers brushing buttons without names. A breeze whispered through the broken glass. It almost sounded like applause. He didn't speak, but something inside the controls buzzed back, off rhythm, like a broken beat still trying to drop. He found the microphone by chance, half buried, still intact, red jewel blinking beneath sand. It was never part of the plane, but it was here, waiting. He stood beside the shattered wing, holding it like a relic from a show no one survived. Desert winds howled low, carrying no melody, only echo. He raised the mic to his lips, but didn't speak, just listened. And beneath his feet, the wing vibrated, tuned to something older than music. The break in the fuselage wasn't clean. It spiraled like a vinyl groove, cut to hold a message no one had played yet. He crouched beside it, ear tilted toward the glow, hearing something between feedback and memory. Each second felt like déjà vu turned physical. He'd seen this before, in dreams scored by silence. The metal breathed in pulses, like the track was alive, waiting to be sampled. He didn't touch it, but his bones remembered the rhythm anyway. Somehow, one reading light still worked, focused perfectly on a scorched sheet of music, crumpled on the aisle carpet. Notes bled into ash. Time signatures melted down to ink scars. He picked it up with reverence, like a prayer dropped mid-sermon. The paper crackled in his hands, warm as breath. The silence around it was tuned in minor key. This wasn't composition. It was confession. The cargo door had been torn clean, like the plane itself had exhaled its secrets at once. Flight cases lay torn, crushed open like tombs. Half a keyboard here, a shattered MPC there. He picked up the drum pad, ran his thumb across the rubber, chipped but familiar. It blinked once, red, then dead, as if it knew one more beat would have been too much. He closed his eyes, let the silence measure tempo. The exit door hadn't opened. It had bent, like something had tried to get in, not out. He sat near it, knees up, holding a black journal he didn't remember packing. Inside, lyrics crossed out again and again. Whole verses scratched down to one phrase, "Land louder." He stared at those two words until they didn't mean anything anymore. Then he wrote one more, "Enough. Eli." He found the wing half buried, sand crusting its rivets, one side sprayed with a phrase in his own handwriting. "This is the record, bold black, deliberate." He didn't remember writing it, but it felt earned. He ran his fingers across the letters, grain by grain. This wasn't crash debris. It was track 1. The wreck wasn't an accident. It was release. The tour pass still hung on what used to be a wall. Melted plastic, half his name burned away. He stared at it like it was an ID card from another lifetime. "Backstage all access," it read. But this wasn't a stage. And no one was waiting behind the curtain. He laughed once. It echoed wrong. Too flat. This wasn't a memory. It was an empty room pretending to have history. The radio swung gently from the ceiling, wire taut and frayed like a neck stretched too long. He lifted it to his mouth, pressed the broken button. "This is Yi," he said. Still breathing. No static. No buzz. Just silence that dared him to try again. He whispered louder, begged quieter. Nothing answered. But somehow, the cabin lights blinked once. Green. The screen above seat 1A flickered to life without a prompt. Grainy, blue-toned, looping a frozen frame of his face. He watched himself blink once. Then, again. The reflection didn't blink back. He moved. The screen didn't. His hand hovered over the armrest, touching the seatbelt he hadn't worn. Was he ever buckled in? Or had he jumped before the fall even came? The seat gave off heat. Not warmth. Performance heat. Inside a storage bin meant for emergency blankets, he found vinyl, his own. 808s in Heartbreak. First press. Split perfectly in half. He held both sides like broken wings. No blood, but still a loss. The grooves caught light, reflected lightning-shaped scars. "You put your soul on wax," he whispered. Then it melted itself free, and the wind played notes from nowhere. He climbed the wing like a pulpit, every step echoing in sand and steel. From above, a light appeared, circular, too clean, too quiet. He stood in the beam, arms lowered, head tilted. No preaching, no verse, only silence, only heartbeat, only the shape of attention without audience. "If this is my gospel," he said, "then let the static be scripture." And the light dimmed slowly, like a curtain falling without a final line. The laptop had survived the fall, chipped, dented, but not dead. He didn't open it. He just held it, warm against the cold of metal and morning. What file could be worth opening now? What truth hadn't already burned? The screen caught the sunrise, bouncing golden static across the cabin. Some things play better in silence anyway. The black box was whole, clean, untouched, blinking soft orange like a muted metronome. He placed it on a cracked tray table, let it sit there like an offering. No sound came, but the light pulsed in perfect sync with his breath. He leaned in, whispered, "You still recording, right?" And for a moment, just one beat, he swore it blinked faster. The desert woke slowly. Sun touched fuselage metal like a scalpel finding fault lines. He walked between the split wing and broken cockpit, casting one shadow in both directions. Each footstep felt like pressing vinyl, soft, deliberate, final. He didn't look back. That part had been looped too many times already. He walked like a man leaving a studio where nothing saved. In the sand near the tail, he drew a line. Then, another. Then a curve between them. A waveform. A heartbeat. A hook. A scream frozen in time. He stared at it like a signature left behind for someone else to find. Then wiped it away with one slow pass of his hand. Some tracks, errant for streaming. There for surviving. The wreckage stood quiet, ribs of metal rising like the bones of an unfinished church. No figure moved, just shadows stretching longer as the sun climbed. From somewhere in the dust, one speaker crackled. Once, then again. Not a beat, not a voice. Just static, looped, fading, sacred. And then, only desert wind, and the echo of a gospel never mastered.